YouTube, and welcome back to my random thoughts on Thursdays. And today I am going to do a reflection on 2012 and what I'm looking forward to in 2013. Alright, so we just celebrated Christmas and the new year is on its way, and I thought this would be the perfect vlog opportunity for me to kind of reflect on what I kind of went through in 2012 and kind of reflect on the year and what I am currently thinking about looking forward to in the new year in 2013. So 2012 was one of the most eventful years I've had ever, I think. Had so much going on this year, just so much. Started off the year, my husband, he works for Intel, and they get, every 7 years, they get an 8-week sabbatical from work, and they have to take the whole 8 weeks off. So in January, we were kind of prepping for that. We ended up renting a house in Sedona, Arizona, to try and escape the winter a little bit, and we were down there for 6 weeks through February and March. And the irony of that trip was the entire drive down to Sedona in February, it was winter weather the entire way. We had freezing fog, sleet, snow, everything but rain. Any kind of winter weather you can imagine we ran into during the 2-day drive down there. And the very last leg of the trip, when we drove from Flagstaff into Sedona, which was, I forget if it was a half an hour or an hour drive, but it was like a blizzard conditions, whiteout conditions, the last leg of the drive. It was hilarious, the fact that we're trying to escape winter and here we are in the middle of this big snowstorm. But thankfully the weather did warm up and we had a good time in Sedona. Had some 60s and 70s degree weather. We did a side trip to Las Vegas while we were there, which was a lot of fun. Got to see Penn and Teller, and I got to see my childhood icons, Donnie and Marie Osmond, which I know I probably sound like a complete dork for really liking Donnie and Marie, but I was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old when their show was on, and I absolutely loved the Donnie and Marie show. I loved all the variety shows, Sonny and Cher, Carol Burnett, all those shows where you had a mix of comedy and song and dance and all that stuff. And I kind of miss those shows. But Donnie and Marie was my absolute favorite. Probably because they were the youngest people doing a variety show in those days. I think he was like 19 and she was 17 or something. So they were closer to my age. I mean, like I said, I was like 4 or 5. I was a little kid. But I absolutely loved it. And so getting to see them on stage kind of doing their shtick. They did a little bit of comedy, they did mostly music in their Vegas show, but it was really nice to get to see them live. So that was a fun little side trip that we did. It was just basically a long weekend that we took down there. And then one of the other side trips we did was a drive down to Phoenix, and again we got hit with a snowstorm. And this was middle of March, and it was a huge snowstorm on our drive down to Phoenix to visit. I have a not my stepmom, my godmother lives in Phoenix, and my husband's aunt and uncle live in Phoenix, so we were going to go do the rounds and kind of visit since we were in the area. And the snow was so bad that the road was closed. We couldn't come back, so we ended up having to stay the night at the aunt and uncle's house instead of coming back the same day. Thankfully we had a dog sitter for the dogs, so they were fine overnight. But it's like, you know, we kept trying to get away from the winter weather. And anytime we tried to drive anywhere, well, except for the Vegas trip, we didn't run into snow on the Vegas trip, but all the other drives we took, we kept hitting snow. It was ridiculous. But that was a fun trip. You know, 6 weeks renting a house down there and kind of just experiencing a slightly different lifestyle while we were there, and it was fun. The very last thing I did before we left Sedona is I had a conference in Salt Lake City, which was, I go to this Adobe conference every year. It used to be the Omniture Summit, it's now the Adobe Digital Marketing Summit, and I always have a great time at that summit. I always learn a lot. I do lots of networking since I'm self-employed, and that's the primary reason I go, is so that I can network and meet other people and kind of spread the word about my business and just kind of try and get new clients and that kind of thing. So it's always a great opportunity for me for my business. But then, you know, there's lots of people that I know since I've been going every year since 2005. And the parties and the after parties and the after parties are infamous. And there's just a lot of fun. I really enjoy going to this conference every year. And the only bad thing about it was that I came back from the conference on the Friday before we were leaving to come back to Colorado. So I get back at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday. We had that evening to pack up our trailer because we were leaving first thing the next morning. So we were up to like 3, packing and cleaning and doing all that kind of stuff, trying to get ready to go home. So that was interesting. But we made it home, and it was like the first big adventure of the year. And then I always go to this other, well, it's not a conference, it's a convention, the Starfest convention in Denver in April. So I went there. And that's where I kind of do some cosplay. I have a Doctor Who costume that I wore this year. And that's always a lot of fun too, also because you get to meet some of your favorite actors. You get to listen to them tell funny behind-the-scenes stories. You learn about what they're planning on doing next with their careers, and what they're doing now for those of them who have decided to go away from the camera for a while. Some of them are directors, some of them are writers. Some of them are just retired and just doing the con circuit for the fun of it, and the money, because they do get paid pretty well for these things, at least, you know, well enough to maintain a comfortable lifestyle, I think. So that's a lot of fun. And I also had another small conference in Chicago in April as well, where I actually got a chance to speak. I'm pretty proud of that. I actually got up in front of, I think it was like 300 people there, and you know, gave a speech, gave a presentation and things, and I was nervous. Excuse me. I was a little bit more nervous than I wanted to be, and you can hear it in my voice. I'll actually put a link down below where you can find that video if you want to watch it, but you can hear how nervous I was in my voice on that one. But it was a great opportunity, and I need to work on my public speaking skills a little bit more and see if I can't get other opportunities to speak publicly, because I think that would also really help my career and my business in the future. So that's just up to April, and I did all of that already. And then between April and July, the big thing was a combination of remodeling in the house. We had lots of remodeling going on with our kitchen and our downstairs bathroom, and I'm sure if those of you who've been watching my vlogs regularly will remember all the videos of all the remodeling updates. I think I had 3 or 4 videos where I was showing all the different remodeling projects and the progress in that. So that was a huge thing. And then I was also prepping for our wedding. Even though we didn't have a formal wedding, we only had the formal reception. But still, we had like 35? Yeah, we had about 35 people come, and I, you know, had a fancy dress, and my husband got dressed up in a suit and tie, and you know, went through and had a wedding cake, and had the Embassy Suites did all the rest of the catering and everything else for us, and had a great time. And there was quite a bit of planning with that. And the biggest adventure with all of that was getting our professional wedding photos, which I didn't have them done on the day of the reception. Instead, I ended up having that scheduled 2 weeks before, so that I could have photos as party favors to hand out at the reception for our guests. And the day that we were planning on doing it, it was beautiful, warm, sunny, nice, and just as I'm getting dressed in my dress, I'd gotten my hair done in a fancy hairdo, And just as I'm getting dressed, thunderstorm rolls in. It hadn't started raining yet, so we called the photographer, says, okay, we're heading to the park because we wanted outdoor park shots. And just as we're getting there, it starts to rain, and it's like, okay, obviously we can't take photos in the rain. It's just not going to work. And she had a second location picked out, an old former hotel in our downtown area. It's now a home for senior citizens, but the Art Deco lobby is still intact, and so she thought that would be a great place to do the photos. So we drove downtown, and at this point it's a complete downpour. It's just sheets of rain coming down. We park and we made a run for it. I mean, it was only like half a block from where we parked to the entrance of this hotel, but we were soaking wet. It was just an awful downpour. It was just, it was amazing. So we're like, okay, we need a do-over, and our photographer's like, okay, let me know whenever you want, we'll do a do-over. Well, we ended up waiting until like a month after the reception and planned, okay, today's gonna be a nice day, let me go get my hair done again, I'll get in my dress, and we'll go to the park. Well, that day, Obama happened to be visiting that day, on his campaign trail, and so we couldn't get to the park we wanted to because the main road in town, the park we wanted to was on the other side of that road, and it was completely blocked off. No one could get through. So we ended up going to a different park, and it started raining again, even though it wasn't supposed to rain. It was like, so but we had got a few shots, and we ended up like, okay, that's it. That's a sign that we're not supposed to have any more wedding photos. So yeah, so we had that. So we had the reception, and we had all the photo adventures and everything else. And then in November, we had our honeymoon in Belize, which was just amazing. Just spent about 7 or 8 days in Belize, and then, a couple of days traveling to and from. And I really enjoyed that trip. I have a whole video where I talk about it, and I have video shots and things of the howler monkeys that we saw, and the snorkeling trip we took, and the beautiful island that we snorkeled off of, and just, the nice resort that we were staying at. So we had a really good time there. I really enjoyed that. And then since then, coming back, and I guess the biggest adventure for me now has been just prepping for Christmas. Getting the package and gifts wrapped and sent to my relatives in Germany, and then I've got relatives back in Chicago, and I had relatives in Montana that I sent gifts to, and then prepping some gifts for some family that we have locally. I have my brother-in-law and sister-in-law and their son, our nephew, and her family, and we actually spent the day before Christmas Eve with them, just because of how timing was working out with all the different family activities going on. We ended up doing Christmas dinner with them on Sunday, and then my husband and I just had a nice quiet Christmas Eve here at home. I made some German sauerbraten and mashed potatoes, and we just kind of took it chill with just the two of us and our dogs and our cats, and we just kind of sat around and just kind of enjoyed dinner and each other's company, and that was it. We kind of wanted to watch some movies, but Netflix was down. I'm sure lots of you are aware of that, and that was a bit of a bummer. But anyway, so that brings us up to now. Had a very eventful 2012, and I wouldn't change anything for the year, despite all the misadventures and as well as the adventures. I really enjoyed this year. For next year, I'm gonna kind of take a chill on the traveling. I'm a little traveled out now. I want to stay home for the most part. I think if we travel at all, it's probably just going to be a week up in Montana visiting family, and maybe taking a little side trip up to Glacier National Park and that kind of thing. So I'm not going to do a lot in terms of actual big travel trips next year, because we've done so much this year. And there's a number of things I want to do. I mean, I spent a ton of money this year with all the traveling and the wedding and everything else, so I want to save some money. That would be a good thing. And then we'd like to possibly buy a new house, or at least I want to buy a new house. My husband likes his house, but I would like to have a house that's a little bit bigger. I'd love to have a guest room, a bigger kitchen, maybe a room that I can use as a studio, both for doing vlogs and also to get back into painting. I used to like to paint, and unfortunately all the paintings and drawings and sketches and things that I've done in the past are gone. My grandmother had them, and unfortunately in the apartment building she was living in Chicago, the storage locker that she had was broken into. Everything was taken. There was nothing valuable in that storage locker. I mean, there was my art and my baby book and some of my old clothes. It was mostly my stuff that I hadn't brought with me to Colorado yet. And I'm guessing they just stole it, took whatever they thought might be possibly valuable, and then dumped the rest in a dumpster. So all of the stuff I've artistically had done at that point is probably in some landfill outside of Chicago right now, which is kind of heartbreaking. But yeah, I'd like to be able to get back into painting and stuff. I have no room right now in the house we're in. So there's just a number of things that I would like to have in a house, and so hopefully we'll be able to do that. And so that'll be, you know, one thing I can take my vlog on this year, this coming year, is to kind of go through the process of looking for a new house. You know, I don't know if I can vlog in every house that we're going to view. But I may or may not take some footage of that as we do that, because I love looking at houses, even if I'm not actually buying a house. I love wandering through people's houses. I know it's kind of weird and creepy, but I love looking at different types of architecture and styles, and kind of gives me ideas of how I want to live and what kind of house I want. So it's always been something fun for me, and I love going on Zillow.com and just looking up houses and kind of fantasizing about which ones I could live in and that kind of thing. So that's always fun. Another big thing I'm doing in 2013 is expanding my business. That's kind of exciting and scary at the same time, but I'm getting to a point where I'm having to turn away business more often than I can accept it because I'm that busy. So I think it's time that I expand and I start hiring people. Although I'm not going to necessarily have employees, I'm just going to have subcontractors. The paperwork is just a lot easier that way, but that's definitely something I'm thinking of doing. And they're going to work remotely, I work remotely, so it's not like I'm going to have an office with people and a secretary and all that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, not secretary, admin assistant. I know, all this political correctness now. My mom was a secretary, she was proud of it. I don't know why people have a problem with that word. Men can be secretaries as much as women, so. But anyway, I digress. So that's a little bit of a reflection of where and what I've done this year. For those of you who haven't been watching all my vlogs, it's a quick summary of everything I kind of showed in my vlogs earlier this year. And kind of what I'm looking forward to for next year. At the very least, you know, house shopping and expanding business are definitely two things that you'll probably see or hear about me talking about in future vlogs at some point, among many other things. So until next week and until next year, bye-bye.